Item 10C, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract for the Crestmoor Glenview Neighborhood Reconstruction Phase 3 Utility Replacement Project with JMB Construction, Inc. in the amount of $6,473,399 and approving a construction budget of $9,030,150.
His mic is on.
Sorry about that. The item before you tonight is the award of the Crestmoor Reconstruction Phase 3 Utility Replacement Project. And what the project entails is, as shown up here on the screen, the area in green, the area in red is the Phase 3 reconstruction area. We recently have completed the Phase 2 improvements, which is the area shown in blue there. Those improvements were the underground, all of the underground wet utilities within the fire damaged area. The project before you tonight is now going into the remaining area of the neighborhood and replacing all of those wet utilities. When I say wet utilities, I'm talking about sanitary sewer, water, new storm drain. And also in this portion of the project, we're adding the street light conduits for the future street light replacement. Recognizing the particular sensitivity of this neighborhood, the bid documents for this project included beefed up project qualifications. And those included the requirement for the contractor to have a dedicated full-time project superintendent, a dedicated safety officer, and a dedicated community liaison. Additionally, we included a special conditions section in these bid documents, and the special conditions outlined 40 special conditions that the contractor had to comply with or has to comply with as part of this construction to make sure that the construction is within the standard of care required for this particular neighborhood, that the project is safe, and that the project addresses some of the concerns that have arisen in the previous projects. And examples of these include holding the contractor to standards related to no use of foul language, for example, on the site, no speeding of construction vehicles, dust control, street sweeping, resident coordination, traffic control, and the requirement to hold frequent construction open houses to keep the public informed during the construction process. Additionally, we added something unique in this project, which is a performance bonus, and that's a dollar amount of $60,000 performance bonus that the contractor is entitled to if he meets certain threshold requirements for performance during the contract. And what we've done is we've given the contractor a threshold of 3 violations of these special conditions. If he stays below 3 violations, he will be awarded that performance bonus. Anything above that, he will not be awarded the performance bonus. We've also backloaded that bonus. By that I mean he will receive a majority of the bonus, $40,000 of that bonus, at the end of the project when we issue the notice of final completion. So that, again, that's incentive for the contractor to maintain and comply with these conditions throughout the life of the contract. So we advertised the project in March of this year and opened bids on May 7th. We received 6 bids. Given the size of this project, the engineer's estimate is $7.1 million, the complexity as well as the special conditions, we received some bids from contractors that don't normally bid within San Bruno, so we did get attention of many of the large contractors within the Bay Area. The low bidder when we opened the bids was JMB Construction Company. Their bid was $6.4 million. That was about 9% below the engineer's estimate and about 12% below the second bidder. A review of JMB's bid, it was determined to be responsive and mathematically correct. However, 2 questions arose regarding their safety record, and I'll take a minute to go through those items. In 2008, JMB had an incident in South San Francisco during during the construction of a sewer project there. They hit a 2-inch diameter PG&E gas distribution line that required immediate evacuation of the area and PG&E coming in to do an emergency repair of that line. Also in 2009, they experienced a project-related death via electrocution on a sewer project that they were doing up in Novato. So in light of these concerns, staff performed a great deal of additional due diligence above and beyond the normal project review that we do. As part of that, what we determined was the 2008 incident in South San Francisco with the gas distribution line, that was actually a line that was live, but it was to an abandoned building, a building that was no longer used. JMB performed all of the required USA Underground Service alert notifications. Unfortunately, PG&E missed marking that line because it was to a building that was not occupied and there was no service to it. PG&E acknowledged that was their oversight and that it was not JMB's fault in that incident. Regarding the 2009 fatality, OSHA fully investigated that incident. JMB was fined accordingly. It was a very unfortunate incident. One of the byproducts of that was that JMB completely overhauled their safety program within their company. They hired additional safety personnel, including a veteran of 25 years in the safety industry. Since then, JMB, for the past 2 years, has been recognized in the construction industry for having 0 job site safety violations of contractors of a similar size. And when I say similar size, that's in the 75,000 to 150,000 man-hours category. We also did some checking with PG&E, and although PG&E does not track or release officially results of contractor incidences with their underground facilities, we were told by PG&E that JMB's incident history is below normal for underground contractors in the Bay Area, and that their construction folks consider JMB a, quote, good contractor, end quote. We also performed pretty extensive reference checks with JMB's, of JMB's references with other municipal utilities. They all checked out very well. They got high praise. In fact, at least 2 of the other agencies said that if they could, they would give JMB their projects exclusively if they didn't have to go through a public bid process. So we did take one additional step, and last week held a pre-award meeting with JMB. That's something that we normally don't do. We normally issue a notice of intent to award the bids, which starts the official bid protest period. Before we issued that notice of award, notice of intent to award, we wanted to sit down with JMB and discuss their safety programs, reiterate their understanding of the uniqueness of work in this neighborhood, and fully discuss the city and the neighborhood's expectations during the construction process. A representative of JMB is here this evening to answer any questions that the council may have at the conclusion of this presentation as well. In summary, on this project, we've taken 5 specific measures to ensure minimal disruption and safety of the neighborhood during construction. Again, we included in the bid and contract documents special project conditions that hold the contractor to a very high standard of care and behavior. We included a substantial performance bonus as an incentive to maintain this standard of care throughout the project. We have vetted this contractor's qualifications, its safety program, and references very thoroughly. We held this pre-award meeting that I just described, and we also will have full oversight by the city during the construction of this project as we had on the previous project, including 2 full-time on-site inspectors and construction engineers, as well as project management. The Public Contract Code requires agencies to award contracts to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. Staff feels comfortable that in light of the foregoing, JMB's bid satisfies these requirements and recommends that the City Council authorize the award of this contract tonight to JMB Construction. In terms of the proposed schedule, if the council awards the contract tonight, we will hold a pre-construction meeting with JMB, most likely the week after next, issue a notice to proceed to them mid-June, with construction starting shortly thereafter. The contract is 200 working days, which equates to about 10 months, a little less than 10 months. So that would put the completion out about March 1st of 2014. The next phase of the project, phase 4, will be all of the surface improvements in the neighborhood. And when I say surface improvements, I'm talking about repaving the streets, reconstructing the curb gutter and sidewalks, putting in the streetlight system. That project is currently in design. The plan is to dovetail that construction start immediately upon the completion of this phase of work. With that, I conclude my presentation and welcome any questions.
Good. Any questions for Harry?
Through the chair,
Rico?
I thank you for the report. I know extra concern and care was taken in regards to this. I just want to summarize on the 2008 incident. You did say that they went through the proper process, put in a USA ticket, marked it either via white paint or flags, and it was unfortunate that the line wasn't acknowledged because it was to a vacant property.
Correct.
So the contractor followed all protocol.
Correct.
What I need to understand more is this performance bonus. So I understand there's a lot of extra items that have been placed upon that is probably unprecedented, uncharacteristic, but obviously this is a unique situation for us. And it takes 3 violations in order for the $60,000 not to be awarded at the conclusion. And I'm trying to understand, A, why 3 violations, 2, why are we giving a $60,000 bonus, and why isn't there a deduction if there's a violation? So I'm trying to understand better as to a bonus for doing a job that you were hired to do it right, and to do it well.
Yeah. So I think in terms of you know, why there's a bonus, again, what we wanted to do was give an incentive to this contractor to perform above and beyond what a contractor is required to do. Unfortunately, as a public contract, there is not a great deal of leverage that we have over a contractor in terms of some of the issues that we specified as far as these special provisions are concerned. We can, for example, if some of their personnel are speeding or using foul language or other things, we can issue them a warning and ultimately ask that they be removed from the project. That's not to say that the next person might not be doing the same thing, and so we're in more of an enforcement mode as opposed to an incentive mode. We think that given the size of this bonus, which represents little less than 1% of the contract amount, and the items that are described, that it is a good incentive for the contractor to, for lack of a better way of describing it, be good boys up in the neighborhood.
If I might,
Be good people.
if I might add, the idea of a contract bonus or incentive is not a unique invention. It's not something that the city of San Bruno has done on a regular basis. I'm not even sure that whether or not we've done this in the past. It is a structure that is typically used by municipalities for time on the contract. In other words, if it's desirable in order to get the job, if it's desirable to get the job done as soon as possible, and that can be incentivized by financially, it is a very typical way that municipalities get that, in that case, above and beyond time consideration. This is not a typical construction project, and this is not a typical construction site or even a typical neighborhood. It is one where the highest level of special consideration and sensitivity needs to be demonstrated to the residents and to the neighborhood and to the community as a whole. While the contract will, we believe, produce tangible benefits to the neighborhood in the long run, we cannot, and the contractor cannot, under any circumstances, view this as a routine construction assignment that because it will produce good in the end, can be done in the normal construction manner. So after considerable deliberation, staff viewed this construction bonus as a desirable way to provide some additional tools that, as Mr. Burrows has indicated, really are not readily available to the public entity in managing and enforcing above and beyond considerations in the delivery of the construction project.
On that note, if I could, this was part of the bid package, these
Correct.
clauses, so we can't change anything now, right? The question was asked as, why is there not penalties? My experience in construction contracts was mainly incentives and penalties on schedule. Give an incentive if you finish earlier or on time, and you pay a penalty if it gets extended or you're late. So are there any penalties on this?
Well, there's
Or
the
is there
standard
any reprimand?
liquidated damages clauses
Okay.
For time delays, which is what you're describing there. In terms of the performance bonus, it is built into the bid. So right now, this bid amount that you see in front of you includes the $60,000 performance bonus. If the contractor does not comply, then those monies will get subtracted from his bid amount.
Okay. Anyone else? Michael?
Through the chair, thank you. I had a question about how the noncompliance is determined. Who makes that determination that noncompliance has occurred, and does the contractor then have an appeal process to a decision that's made by either the department, or how's that going to work?
Yes, so any notice of violation, the contractor will first be issued a verbal warning, and then he'll be issued a written warning. We wanted to have a little bit of leeway with the contractor in determining, what constitutes a violation or not in terms of setting the tone at the beginning of the project. Our inspectors and our resident engineer will be making that determination as to what entails a violation. But the contractor will be given up to 3 written violations. At the 3rd written violation, he will be issued a notice that says that he is no longer eligible for the performance bonus. And I'm sorry, the rest of your question was?
That was, would they have an appeal was the last part of it?
Yes, there is a process that once they receive a written notice of violation, they can protest that. Mark, correct me, or can you interject here in terms of what that process is?
I'm sorry. Unfortunately, we don't have it. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't tell you off the top of my head. What I can say is that the performance bonus is an additional tool that was incorporated into the contract based primarily on past experience, in which we found that the tools in standard municipal contracts that were let to the lowest bidder were really not sufficient to address some of the issues that had occurred previously. And so we're not using the performance bonus to replace the contractor's obligation to do all the things that the contractor has to do in order to meet the terms of the contract. It's just an additional tool. What we discovered in prior contracts is that if there are violations and even penalties or liquidated damages, that oftentimes that doesn't allow the city to do anything other than say, now we're going to assess a penalty, now you're going to get liquidated damages. The other tools that the city was being requested to use in prior instances, such as can't we eliminate this, can't we tell the contractor we're going to find somebody else, all of those things, because we don't like what the contractor's doing, were not tools that are available to the city. So instead, staff, after extensive discussions, ended up with the additional tools of a performance bonus so that that way there would be an additional incentive for the contractor to perform, not just on day 1 or 2, but also on up to the last day of the contract.
Okay. And Harry, can you go over again how the loading of that bonus is structured? They're entitled to 40% at what point?
Yeah, the total bonus again is $60,000. $40,000 will be held to the final notice of completion. So essentially, the project has to be complete before they'll get that $40,000, that last $40,000. The initial $20,000 will get paid out on a pro rata basis based upon the length of the contract remaining, but it won't start until the third progress payment. So it'll be 3 months into the project before they receive that first payment, which will be a prorated portion of $20,000 spread out over the remaining portion of the contract.
Okay. I think it's an interesting tool and an interesting incentive. The $60,000 amount, it does seem very small compared to the size of the contract, and I'm wondering why we felt that was an adequate amount of an incentive.
Yeah. Well, what we the thought process was about 1% plus or minus of the total contract amount. Typically, a contract of this size, contractors looking at somewhere between, depending on the contractor, 5% to up to 10% profit. This represents 1% of the contract amount, which is a significant portion of potential profit for a contractor. So we think it's enough to get contractors' attention. As an aside, based upon our discussions with JMB in our pre-award meeting, our feeling is that they recognize the dollar value. It is an incentive for them, and we think they are committed to performing adequately and above the thresholds that we have set in the neighborhood so that they can get that performance bonus.
Okay, great. And so then once the project is underway, if a resident had a complaint about the contractor, they would address that with you, I assume?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
One follow-up to Councilmember
Great call.
Salazar. Thank you, Mr. Ray. You said if they receive 3 written violations, then they forego the 60. However, if I heard you correctly, you said they get a warning, and then if it happens again, they get a written. So am I safe to say that in order to get 2 writtens, you've already had 2 verbals and 2 writtens?
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated the way we set it up to explain, but actually we wanted to have a little bit of leeway in making at least the initial determination. So what we've done is we've said that the contractor will have 2 verbal warnings, okay, in total. So we've got 40 special conditions. After 2 verbal warnings, he gets a written warning, whether it's on any of those specific conditions. For example, if he has a dusty construction site, we'll issue a warning. He can get a second verbal warning based upon foul language. Okay, that next warning he gets will be a written violation. Okay, he gets 2 total verbals, and then he gets his first written. If he gets 3 writtens in aggregate or 3 writtens on any particular item, that will void his performance bonus.
Okay, so it's 2 verbals to get the written
Correct.
each time?
No.
No, so
Just
after
in total.
2 total?
Just in total,
For the
correct.
whole cycle of the job?
Yeah.
Okay, and then and maybe it was already answered, and I missed it. When you said there was the appeal, Councilmember Salazar asked, whom would the contractor appeal to if they felt this was not an appropriate warning?
He will appeal directly to the city.
The city is which department? Whom
The
are
city will
referencing?
be the Public Services Department.
Okay, so it goes to the Director of Public Works, who hears it out in a hearing form, or how is?
Yeah, again, I think we need to check our specifications on that to answer that question
Okay,
correctly.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one more question to the chair.
Oh, Michael.
sort of this is a complete aside. I had a resident in that area ask about the undergrounding of the electrical system, and I know that's something we said would probably be cost prohibitive, and we're probably not going to address that. I'm wondering if during this phase, if there were some opportunity, if we had any interest at all in revisiting that, would now be a good time to consider putting in some conduit or some infrastructure to support that? And do we forego that opportunity after this is done, or has that ship already sailed?
Yeah. No, that's a very good question, and obviously it comes up quite a bit from the residents up there still. Going back to staff's recommendation of probably about a year ago, the recommendation was to not underground the utilities up there because of the additional disruption that it would cause to all of the individual homes by having to trench in the side yards for the new services. In terms of could it be done now, and it's now a good time versus any other, it doesn't really matter. It's staff's opinion that it's going to be disruptive no matter when it's done. We certainly, I don't think, would want to undertake it any later than this project if we were going to. But regardless, it is the disruption that we're going to have in the neighborhood for this work. We can multiply that times, at least 2 times on an individual homeowner basis of what the undergrounding disruption would be.
Anything else? Would someone like to introduce the resolution for adoption?
Through the chair, I'd like to introduce the resolution.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.